Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are going to talk about getting your pup ready for winter. So this might not have even occurred to you, or if you're in Florida like where I'm at, this might not even apply to winterize your pup. But if you live anywhere north of Florida, this is probably applicable. And sometimes even in northern Florida, we need to kind of prepare for colder or chillier weather. One of the first things to kind of think about as winter approaches is proper paw care. So taking care of your dog's feet, making sure you're trimming that hair in between the pads, keeping everything kind of trimmed up there. Also making sure that if it is snowing or icy, that your dog is wearing some kind of booties. So they have different types of booties. There's the silicone ones. There's some that are kind of like fabric that you can adjust and wash in the washing machine. So really just whatever fits your needs. They're pretty inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon or Chewy, but just having some booties. And along with that, thinking about where your dog is walking in the winter. So if the ground is treated with some type of salt or something to melt the ice, that could be harmful to your dog's skin and their overall health. So in addition to booties, thinking about, with respect to paw care, using something like coconut oil or Vaseline, or getting some kind of solution to put on their feet, so a topical solution. The next thing to kind of think about is getting your dog a coat. So unless they have some kind of natural winter coat, and even then they probably might still need one, just getting them something that will not only keep them warm, but might also be water resistant. And then along with that, making sure you're not limiting their walking, their mobility too much with that coat. So just depending on where you live, especially if you are in the Northeast, probably want to think about getting that coat. Again, these are really easy to find. They've even got them at, Walmart, Target, some of the stores that you shop at every day. The next thing to kind of think about is keeping your dog's ears dry. So if your dog's ears get wet and you leave them wet, they could get really painful ear infections. And the same is really true for summer. You might have noticed if your dog was swimming a lot or playing in a pool or a lake or an ocean, not cleaning that out or drying up those ears could lead to a possible ear infection. So just making sure, if they're outside playing in the snow or outside in, the freezing rain, that when they come in, you're just very softly drying their ears. The next thing to think about is their bedding. So they might need a little bit of a thicker bed or a couple of covers or blankets added to their bed, especially if they're on a tile floor, a wood floor, a concrete floor. Depending on the floor that their bed is on, it might need a little extra warmth. So something else to think about as we are preparing for winter. Also, don't forget to hydrate your dog. So probably not something that comes to mind frequently, but if they are kind of layered up and bundled, they're going inside, outside, just making sure that they're staying hydrated, especially, if you live in a big city and they're on public transportation, they're going in and out of buildings, in and out of buses or subways or taxis, just making sure you have water along for the ride. Next thing to think about is brushing your dog. So this is true year round, no matter the season. But brushing them, making sure that their fur doesn't get matted, making sure it can insulate them, provide insulation for them, and that they have a clean coat. You might notice if your dog plays in the snow, their coat could get kind of clumpy and that snow can kind of ball up on it. So just making sure you're taking care of those issues as well. Next thing to think about is the time that your dog is spending outdoors. So this is going to apply for dogs that normally live outdoors and then your everyday inside dog that goes outside frequently. So if your dog does live outside, depending on the climate and the weather, you might need a backup plan for bringing them inside, whether you're keeping them in a secure bathroom, a garage, a basement if you have a basement. If they are staying outside, consider the housing that they're in. How insulated is it? Can they stay out of the elements and can they stay warm? If you have an inside dog, there are so many inside dogs that love to go outside and play in the snow. And that's great, but you do want to keep an eye on them and make sure you're preventing frostbite and hypothermia. So just kind of being mindful of how long they're being outside and how much they've been playing in the snow. And the final tip is to learn more about your breed. If this is the first winter with your dog, maybe you haven't had this breed before, or you need to kind of brush up on that information, just doing a little bit of research, figuring out how tolerant of the cool air your breed might be. So I'd love to hear from you guys, what you guys are doing to get your pups ready for the winter. Especially if you were in a very cold area, would love to hear some of those tips. So as always, you can email canineculturepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.